Let's be real for a second. You've seen the headlines, you've seen the speculation, and you've probably wondered what is actually happening behind those ancient palace walls. But what if I told you that a decision, a private legal decision made by the king, has reportedly left one member of the royal family completely blindsided? And no, it's not about who gets the bigger crown or who sits where at a state dinner. This is about power. This is about money, and according to sources close to the situation, the fallout is something nobody saw coming. We're going to get into exactly what happened, why it reportedly stunned one key figure, and what this means for the future of the monarchy. Stick with me, because by the end of this, you're going to see this entire story in a completely different light. So what was this decision? On the surface, it seemed like a routine administrative move. Boring, right? Something that would typically get buried on page 12 of a broadsheet newspaper. But according to insiders, this wasn't routine at all. This was a chess move. Reports suggest that King Charles III made a decision regarding the legal structure of certain royal estates, specifically the Duchy of Lancaster. Now, I know what you're thinking. The Duchy of what? That sounds like something out of a fantasy novel. But stick with me, because this is the engine that fuels the private income of the monarch. We're talking about a portfolio worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and what the king allegedly did with that portfolio is causing shockwaves. Here's where the first real layer of this story gets interesting. According to reports, the king decided to restructure the way funds from this estate are distributed. But here's the catch, and this is the part that reportedly left Meghan stunned. The changes weren't just about the present, they were designed to create a legal precedent that could affect the financial future of non-working royals for generations. You see, when Prince Harry and Meghan stepped back from their roles as senior royals back in 2020, one of the biggest debates wasn't just about the titles or the family drama, it was about the money. Who pays for security? Who pays for the lifestyle? And most importantly, does a royal who isn't working for the institution still get access to the pot of gold? The king's recent legal move, which was reportedly made without consulting certain family members, essentially tightens the grip. It draws a much sharper line between the working royals, the ones doing the ribbon cutting and the diplomatic tours, and the ones who have chosen a different path. And according to the sources, Meghan was reportedly taken aback not just by the decision itself, but by the timing. Why now? Why not a year ago? Why not 5 years ago? This is where the narrative shifts from a simple administrative update to a deeply personal family dynamic. You have a king who is reportedly trying to future-proof the institution, and on the other side, you have a couple who have built a new life, a new brand, and a new empire across the Atlantic, and yet they are still legally tied to the very entity they walked away from. Let's pause for a second and think about the psychology here. Imagine leaving a family business, a massive global family business, and then years later, the patriarch changes the bylaws in a way that directly impacts your financial safety net. Even if you said you didn't want to rely on that safety net anymore, seeing it legally reinforced to exclude you is a different feeling entirely. According to sources, this wasn't just a legal shock for Meghan, it was an emotional one. It allegedly felt like a final legalized severance, a line drawn in the sand that says you're either all in or you're all out. And that's a tough pill to swallow, even for someone who has built a multi-million-dollar media empire. But here's the twist that keeps this story from being just another tabloid headline, because while Meghan was reportedly stunned, King Charles might be playing a longer game than people realize. Think about it. The British monarchy is an ancient institution that survives by adapting, and right now it's under a microscope. With the king's own health concerns reportedly being managed, and with Prince William and Kate emerging as the future faces of the crown, there is a massive push for efficiency. The public has a limited appetite for funding an endless list of distant relatives and their security details. So is this legal decision a personal jab, or is it simply business? According to royal commentators, it might be both. This is where my own analysis comes in, because I think we often get caught up in the he said, she said of royal drama that we forget there are actual lawyers and accountants in the room. This wasn't a letter sent in anger. This was a legal document, and legal documents don't care about feelings. The Duchy of Lancaster is a private estate, meaning the king has a lot of discretion over how it's managed. But by making this change now, he is effectively codifying the Sussex exit into the very fabric of the monarchy's financial operations. He's ensuring that no future royal can do what Harry and Meghan did, leave for California and keep a foot in the financial door. It's a deterrent, it's a message, and honestly, from a purely institutional standpoint, it's a smart move. Harsh, but smart. But let's get back to that reaction. Why was Meghan reportedly the one who was stunned? Why not Harry? Well, according to psychological analysis from royal biographers, Harry has always had a more complex love-hate relationship with the institution. He grew up in it, he resented parts of it, but he also understood its mechanisms. Meghan, coming from the outside, reportedly viewed the relationship through a different lens. Sources claim she saw the agreement they made in 2020 as a clean break. A deal is a deal. So to have that deal altered unilaterally years later by the king without what she would consider fair discussion, that allegedly felt like a breach of trust. And in the world of high-stakes family negotiations, trust is the only currency that matters. Now, here's where we have to separate the facts from the noise. No official statement has come from Buckingham Palace confirming that this decision was aimed at the Sussexes. In fact, the official line is that this was a routine administrative update to ensure the estate's long-term viability. But we all know that in the royal world, there's no such thing as a coincidence. Timing is everything. And the fact that this decision was made just as the Sussexes were gearing up for a major new phase of their professional lives, with new projects, new deals, and a continued focus on their philanthropic work, suggests that the timing was at the very least symbolically significant. Let's talk about the broader implications for a second, because this isn't just about two people. This is about the future of the monarchy. King Charles has reportedly been determined to slim down the monarchy. He wants a smaller, more cost-effective institution that the British public can get behind. But by making that slimming down legally binding through estate management, he's effectively making it irreversible. Imagine you're a younger royal, like Princess Beatrice or Eugenie. They have jobs, they have families, but they also have a connection to the crown. This new precedent sets a clear boundary. If you want the perks, you have to pay the price in public service, and if you don't, the safety net starts to shrink. This is the part of the story that I find fascinating because it highlights the tension between family and institution. The royals are constantly telling us they are a family, but then they govern themselves like a corporation. And in this case, the corporation made a decision that the family is now dealing with emotionally. According to reports, the relationship between the Sussexes and the king has been strained but not entirely broken. There have been phone calls, there have been birthday wishes, there has been an attempt at diplomacy. But moves like these, they don't exactly build bridges, they reinforce boundaries. But let's not pretend this is a one-sided story, because the Sussexes have also made moves that have stunned the palace. From the Oprah interview to the Netflix documentary to the book, there has been a steady stream of revelations that have challenged the institution. So when the king makes a decision that tightens the financial screws, you have to wonder, is this cause and effect? Is this the institution finally pushing back with the one language it understands best, legal precedent? According to royal analysts, this is the monarchy's way of saying, we have a memory too, we have lawyers too. Here's a mini payoff for you. The Duchy of Lancaster isn't just a random estate, it's the king's private portfolio. It includes everything from commercial properties to rural land. The income from this estate funds the king's private expenses and also supports members of the royal family who carry out official duties. By restructuring how those funds are allocated, the king can essentially decide who is in and who is out without having to make a dramatic public announcement. It's silent, it's stealthy, and according to sources, this stealth approach was reportedly what left Meghan stunned. It wasn't a phone call, it was a deed poll. It wasn't a family conversation, it was a legal filing. So what happens now? Well, the door isn't completely closed. According to legal experts, the king's decision sets a precedent, but precedents can be changed. If the relationship were to thaw significantly, if there were a major reconciliation, these structures could theoretically be adjusted again. But that's the catch. It would require a reconciliation. It would require trust. And right now, according to the reports, that trust is in short supply.
Let's inject a little humor here, because as serious as this is, you have to laugh at the absurdity of it all. Here we have one of the most famous families in the world with centuries of history, and they are essentially arguing about an allowance. It's like a Thanksgiving dinner argument, but with gilded carriages and titles that date back 1,000 years, except instead of someone storming out of the dining room, they're storming across the Atlantic. And instead of arguing about who gets grandma's china, they're arguing about who gets the revenue from a shopping center in the north of England. It's high drama, but it's also deeply, deeply human. But back to the seriousness. For Meghan, who has built a brand around advocacy, women's rights, and mental health, this legal move reportedly felt like a reminder of the structural power she was up against. It's one thing to leave an institution. It's another thing to have that institution rewrite the rules to ensure you can't come back even if you wanted to. And while the Sussexes have repeatedly said